Okay. I still don't know. I Oh, that's right. We were getting chased. Okay, I don't know what to choose. Let's run. Right, I had no time to deal with her. I twisted my body, forcing myself to take flight away from her torrent of slashes. I was aware of how absurd this exercise was. I ran straight up at a speed fast enough to shake off gravity, then took a sharp 90-degree turn to the right without so much as slowing down, causing the law of inertia to place its burden upon my whole body, my bones and flesh creaking under the strain. My body may have been far sturdier than the average humans, but it still had its limit. After screwing up my landing and tumbling atop the bridge, I needed a few seconds to take my next move. Sakurai's calm counterattack, following her deceleration, cancelled my own action, leaving me no better position than before. Just what could I do? Sakurai had no openings, nor could I lure her into any showing. In any case, was this really my only choice? Sakurai gave me a puzzled look for a moment, and I could hardly blame her. Normally, no one would be crazy enough to do this. I'd taken a crouching start, a stance used at track and field events, capable of exhibiting the highest amount of speed at the shortest possible time. In other words, a frontal breakthrough with no planning whatsoever. The bridge was one straight line, and so if I rammed into Sakurai with a dashing attack, all I had left to do was to keep on going and leave her in the dust. Sakurai shot a stern glance in my direction. He might have realized what I was up to. No, that couldn't be the case. No one would expect me to just try and make a run for it in this situation.
一見無茶なようで理にかなってる。確かにそれなら一撃の爆発力がものを言うから。でもね藤井君、分かってる？狙い撃ちにされるってことが。
Yeah, of course I did. Charging at her with all my might was solely an offensive maneuver. I had nothing in the way of defense. In other words, it was like begging her to counterattack.
悪いけど、手加減できそうにないわよ。
Sakurai held her sword at the ready, lowering her hips, narrowing her eyes, and assuming a counterattack stance. I'd already mustered most of my strength, so I couldn't turn around and flee. All I had left to do was to keep on moving forward and forward without stopping. I knew I'd never overcome the fear in my heart with a half-assed attempt at fleeing. Far beyond the point of goosebumps, I had shivers running down my spine without end. While still feeling that inexplicable gaze boring down on me, I wanted to shout my true feelings at the world at large. Which was why I mobilized every fiber of my being to escape this place as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'd... Mary, I'm sorry, but please lend me your power. I shot forward like a speeding bullet, the piercing echo of my war cry washing my fear clean away. Sakurai's blade moved ever so slightly before shifting into a clean, sickening, perfect arc to intercept me. The sheer elegance of her strike would have no doubt drawn praise from all who witnessed it. She was a pretty damn skilled, I'd give her that, but I also remembered what she had said earlier. My strong point lay in my destructive power. She may have been a jack of all trades, but at times that would only prove to be one's undoing against an opponent with a clear-cut and thoroughly outstanding single specialty. Mary's very soul dwelled within this blade. If Sakurai genuinely thought she could shatter it, she was welcome to try it. Sakurai's flash of strike hit me in the right flank, after which she swung upwards with the intention of severing my whole arm, weapon and all. But the difference in our speed, weight, mass, and strength of our souls allowed me to knock the tip of her sword in another direction. Sakurai's expression turned to a mask of impending death, but there was nothing more I could do. I had reached my current limit. My speed and power are effective in repelling Sakurai's attack, but I didn't have the composure nor the ability to follow it up with a finishing strike. Once I knocked her away with my tackle, I no longer paid any heed to Sakurai, and making a run for it was my best option. I let out a shout of relief and elation knowing that my gamble had paid off. All I had left to do was to get out of here as fast as I possibly could. What? Just then, someone blocked my way. Who was it? A regular Why would you think that? That felt the most likely given how I didn't notice they were even here. If it was Rusalka or Wilhelm, I would have sensed them one way or another. I'm gonna stop now. Whoever it was, they likely wouldn't make it out of here in one piece if I crashed into them. My eyes widened at the horror of killing an innocent person, but then my body fell forward with an ear-splitting roar. The recoil knocked my feet into the air, and the asphalt exploded as though I'd crashed into a lump of steel. Well, this is happening. I couldn't breathe, nor could I see. A single finger counterbalanced the high-speed kinetic energy that knocked even Sakurai down with ease. I hadn't been attacked, I was merely stopped, with a poke to the chest. Oh, Trifa.
それさえ読めていれば別の手もあったでしょうに。まあよい。よくやりました。
Upon hearing that gentle, soothing voice, I couldn't match it up to the person in my memories. I didn't want to.
しかしまあ、あなたは大したものだ、藤井さん。もはや生け捕りなどという半端では手に負いかねるということですか。素晴らしい。
生産杯ゲか。
He knew my name. Sakurai uttered his, and it remained an undeniable fact that he stopped me with little to no effort. An abrupt onset of confusion cooled my seething mind. As the whirlpool of fear that once raged within me evaporated, I began to slowly regain my composure. But even still, much like the incident with Kasumi, my go-to reaction was to withdraw into complete denial. That just couldn't be true. Yet, as my vision began to return, my hopes were shattered to pieces.
さて、それでは戯れ遊びも終わりです。改めて自己紹介をいたしましょう。私の名は生産杯。清掃13騎士団黒煙卓第3位、狩猟代行、バレリア・トリファー、クリストフ・ローエン・グリーン。あなたの父祖に等しい我が死からは、よこしまなる聖人などと呪いを賜った男ですよ。
In other words, this meant that everything from Kasumi to Himuro could easily be connected to this whole goddamn mess.
では、今より開戦といたしましょうか。
I was left completely paralyzed in the face of a tremendously powerful foe. The bullet hit Wilhelm in the... Yeah, I might as well. The bullet hit Wilhelm in the chest, followed rapidly by an explosion. That was not to say the bullet itself exploded, but rather a certain something planted at Wilhelm's chest. The object in question sitting in the thermos at a freezing negative 197 degrees Celsius with liquid nitrogen. Yeah, I was right! Turning him to an ice sculpture in a blink of an eye. This was Shiro's trump card. Swords, guns, and fists meant nothing to Wilhelm's menacing body. But what of cellular destruction through chemicals? Acid was still unreliable, while sarin gas would be too risky for Shiro. Shiro may have been reckless beyond precedent, but that didn't mean he went out of his way to die. He may have had a shit happens kind of attitude to the whole ordeal. But he'd only let that come into play once he'd tried everything else humanly possible. He couldn't let himself die before accomplishing his goal. In other words, he could at least tell a dumb plan from a good one. He might choose the former depending on the situation, but he could still make a distinction. And so he chose to go with liquid nitrogen. Anything worked for a thermal attack, so after taking power, effectiveness, availability, and portability into consideration, he felt it more desirable to utilize a cold substance over a hot one. And naturally, a liquid nitrogen was one of the coldest substances known to man. His plan entailed freezing the target then with a motorcycle. The 1800cc engine displacement of Shiro's beloved Valkyrie rune roared to life, spewing steel exhaust from the 350 kilograms plus flat 6 monster of an engine. All of this had gone according to plan. Shiro accelerated his motorcycle to tremendous speed, sprung up the front wheel, then smashed the ice sculpture that Wilhelm into millions of pieces, or at least he should have. Made a skillful rear wheel. Oh my god. He made a skillful rear wheel spin turn after racing 50 meters away. Shiro stared at a part of the ice, twinkling like diamond dust, with a complex look in his face. Shiro pointed his finger like a pistol, pretending to shoot his sculpture before giving his accelerator another turn. No one pursued him. It sure seemed that way. Wilhelm simply kept standing there, completely unharmed. The low temperature and the impact didn't even hurt him, crushing only his overcoat, thus exposing his bare upper body to the moonlight. He didn't give chase. His opponent may have been riding a motorcycle, but Wilhelm could have easily caught up to him in no time flat. Yet he remained still, gazing fixedly on a certain spot. He hadn't forgotten about Shiro. Rage, delight, and humiliation burned bright into his twisted heart, even now. But an abnormal event dwarfing all that had just occurred, and he couldn't ignore it in favor of chasing some impudent prey. No one could. For all members of the Civilian Round Table knew what this feeling was. In an event that could only be described as abnormal, Wilhelm's porcelain skin began to bleed, accompanied by intense pain. For it was the mark of submission, vivid proof of his first defeat as well as his allegiance. In other words, a sign that one who carved that mark would soon descend. Wilhelm narrowed his eyes, struggling to suppress a chuckle.
了解しましたよ。ただ今こんななりなんで、俺がご尊顔を廃止立てまつんのはまた後日っちゅうことで。クリストフの野郎、相変わらずえげつねえ真似しやがるが。レオン死ぬんじゃねえか、腰抜かしてよ。
And with that, he vanished. The night was heavy with an inexplicable and overwhelming pressure, like the very heavens could fall at any moment. To describe it as the calm before the storm, the stillness before the end, would be most apt. That's not a finger, that's a fist. My pathetic lack of defense had been punished by a blow to the solar plexus. Whoop. The urge to vomit assailed me as I was sent flying backwards, and though I managed to land safely, I was now on my knees and unable to get back up.
さて、ようやくおとなしくなりましたね、藤井さん。すぐには動けぬでしょうから、しばしいい子にしていなさい。
ゲイか。
ああ、あなたもですよ、レオンハルト。そう無駄に恐縮する必要はない。命令はそれを告げた者が責任を負う。あなたが悪いわけではないのだから。私が悪く、そして相手が悪かったのです。気に病むことはありません。不服でも？
いえ、申し訳ありませんでした。
Sakurai hanged her head, uttering the phrase without the slightest hint of emotion before taking a step back to silently stand at her attention. Their hierarchical relationship seemed quite evident. Sakurai was treating Father Trifa as a superior. As for him,
ああ、ですから、 そういう杓子定規な対応をせずとも良いと言っているのに困りましたね。
He, and it really was him, goddammit, addressed Sakurai with the same old unreliability, broad smile and gentle tone I had come to know him for, acting as her superior. I felt sick as the pain in my stomach had been reinvigorated by another kind of agony. Would I really have to fight him? And if that wasn't enough...
まあここはあなたの理解を得られただけでもよしとしておきましょうか。藤井さん、それで聞いていると思いますが、私はあなたにお会いしてこのように語り合う場を持ちたかった。率直に答えていただきたい。あなたはテレジアを愛していますか？
What? It was someone I needed desperately to know more about, yet wanted to avoid bringing up at all costs. Irize, in other words, Himuro.
愛だと。
ええ。あなた方の仲がいいのは知っています。友人とも、あるいはそれ以上とも。お互い憎からず思い合っているのでしょ？ならば、個人的に興味が尽きない。
Aww.
あなた、大義や名分が立てば、
What?
テレジアさえ殺すつもりでいるのですか？あなたは私を憎みつつある。殺す大義を見つけつつある。そうですよ、あなたは正しい。私は害しか及ぼしません。ならば結構、敵、すなわち撃滅すべし。その至極簡単な公式を、あなたは彼女にも当てはめますか？すでに殺人には手を染めたでしょう。経験者として言いますが、一人殺せば止まりませんよ。と言います。今答えなさい。あなたはあのテレジアを殺さないのか殺すのか。
俺は
Still crouched and clawing at the asphalt, I looked up and bellowed with anger. Bellowed. I was an idiot, a fool, an imbecile, a brat, and an incompetent kid who didn't know a goddamn thing. I wasn't even sure if I lived to the end of this, and I'd be full of myself to think I could protect and save someone. Yet even now I remembered those days, and Himura was naturally a part of the day-to-day life I meant to reclaim. I wasn't gonna listen to anyone grouping her together with these freaks.
俺は絶対お前たちに負けたりしない。たとえ何がどうなろうと、俺があの人を殺すなんて。
There's only one thing I could say. Will never do or can't even consider. Yeah, I never even considered it. Yeah.
考えられない。そんなことはありえない。
Yep. Right after I declared that. Father Trifa broke out into a maddened cackle, his body shaken and twisted with each new fit of laughter.
なるほど、なるほど、そうですか。これは、なんともはや勇ましい。負けぬと、勝つと言いますか。この私に、我々に、あなたが。
Oh boy.
愛を信じて、打倒すると、なんて眩しい。美しく羨ましく妬ましく愚かしい。実に思考。ああ、よくわかりましたよ。理解しました。
Oh.
それがあなたで偽りないと。ではならば、彼の言葉をお聞きになりましたか？我が主。
Did I choose the right one? For a moment, I felt captivated by Father Trifa's madness, but at the same time, I came to realize something. Oh. In other words, who the abnormal gaze I've been feeling on my skin these past few minutes belonged to.
これがあなたの盟友が大体サラトゥストラですよ。ハイドリ秘境。
The moment he uttered that word, the very canopy of the heavens appeared to tremble in response. Okay. An overwhelming pressure seized me, threatening to crush my very bones, almost like the skies themselves had fallen. I found myself pinned to the ground, unable to move, as cracks ran through the asphalt around me. The bridge and the seas below howled, thousands of tons of steel and concrete rent asunder by the very presence of a certain being.
率直なご感想をお尋ねしたくありますね。どうでした？
悪くない。
Oh, hallelujah! Only Father Trifa remained detached from the pressure ravaging Sakurai and me. A voice echoed from above him. Grand whirlpool of gold? Or perhaps a hole? The projection began to take form before my eyes, assuming the shape of a man. A man of such tall stature, I'd probably have to look high up to see him, even if I was standing. His physique appeared quite proportionate as well, almost like it represented the golden mean of a human body. His golden locks, like a terrible mane behind him, dancing wildly in the night air. His features beautiful enough to drive one to suicide. His physical build exhibited no flaws whatsoever. His narrow slits revealed a pair of golden eyes gazing calmly upon the world below. There glimmered the light of hellfire. I'd no doubt in my mind that this guy was those guys. I quickly recalled that there was this man by that name known as the Totemkopf's Black Prince, the Hangman.
国安卓第1位ハガルヘルツォークメフィストフェレスなどと K の演者に祝福された曰く悪魔のような男らしいよ
Reinhard Heydrich, the true commander of the Obsidian Round Table. His advent left me thoroughly paralyzed. But amidst pressure overwhelming enough to shatter my very soul, I sensed something else. Only faintly at first, but it gradually grew clearer. Sound? Where was it coming from? It sounded like chirping, akin to the trembling of a resonating tuning fork, growing louder and louder. It was her voice. I could sense her confusion. My right arm began to violently tremble. A resonance. Met with a soul similar in nature to hers, Mary's own soul began to grow, skyrocket in density, seemingly without limit. As a result, it was changing, transforming like this was some kind of chemical reaction. Reinhard Heydrich was terrifying. The emotions flooding my heart spread over to Mary, amplifying them in 1,000 times over. What could I do? What was I to do? People assailed by fear generally had two options available to them. Or would I charge at the source of our fear, and darkness blanketed my mind and vision with the abruptness of a finger snap.
一刀のもとに立てばよい。
Excuse me? Mr. Third Voice?
ほう、これは。
Faint smile crept onto the beast's lips as the divine vessel gazed upon the spectacle in awe. It was a clear display of their difference, evident proof of one's superiority over the other as a commander of souls. The beast knew no fear, treating all who dwelt under the canopy of heavens as his playthings. The monarch of destruction, his august visage, the very herald of calamity, bowed before no king or man, yet his dreadful charisma shackled all those who knew him. In contrast, the divine vessel knew the hearts of men. Though his heart had drowned in madness, his nature was of the mundane, thus favoring the crude and lowly, able to adapt to all situations, entrapping others through hate and love, remorse, sorrow, wrath, and resentment. His cruel web would allow for no escape. As a result, the divine vessel judged the present situation as an omen of misfortune, while the beast smiled at while the beast smiled at it as fortuitous. The former was in the right, for he knew the hearts of men and could see this current state of affairs for what truly was. Yet the genuinely terrifying man was indeed the latter, for he boasted of prowess supreme, capable of trampling all those who dared oppose to him into dust. Despite Renfuji's attempts at opposing the beast's terrible pressure, his whole body howled in agony, breaking apart with each passing second.
暴走かな。
というより、あなたがそうさせているのでしょ、ハイドリヒ教。
One weaved graceful words, the other was overcome by sour exasperation, yet neither made a move to intervene.
これは狂信。あなたの魂にこうして彼らは作り変えられている。副首領閣下のごとく評するなら、相当の蛇が脱皮をしている最中ですな。
ならば。
ええ。
Ren's body was being destroyed and rebuilt at the same time. They sensed that the scales of that conflict were gradually tilting into a positive direction.
これではいずれ今のあなたを上回るやもしれません。
願ってもない。
And a moment later, the tiny mouse pinned by the beast's fierce forelegs finally broke free. Couldn't exactly tell how long I'd been out for, but the situation changed drastically. My body felt light to the point where Reinhardt's ungodly pressure no longer hurt. My resistance had increased. My vision felt better than ever. Though my whole body was seething, my mind remained cool and collected, able to carry out what I had to do with a shred of hesitation.
よかろう、参れ。
What? Right now? Reinhardt beckoned me with grace, his haughty words brimming with elegance. But both Father Trifa and Sakurai took a step back, leaving us to genuinely face each other one-on-one. If I attempted to flee now, that'd be the end of the line. Unless I beat Reinhardt right now, I felt like I'd never get another chance. A second later, I dashed straight ahead, spurred on by indescribable hunch.
さて、カールよ。K の考えを当ててみようか。
Reinhardt smiled at my charge without even looking at the raised guillotine aimed at him, nor did he assume a defensive
ここ
stance.
で私と、あるいは相打たせたところで意味などなく、どちらが倒れようと誓いは果たせん。何？至極簡単なことで苦にもならん。つまり K、こういうのだろう。
I brought down the guillotine upon his neck, pouring every last atom of my being into what I could easily label as the most powerful strike I had ever delivered, however.
ザレロ、せいぜい可愛がれと。
My blade inflicted no pain on Reinhardt whatsoever, failing to cleave even a single strand of his hair. Should have been stronger now. I should have been more powerful than I was a few minutes ago. Mary learned fear, which I weaved into my blade, and was able to brush aside that abomination's pressure. So why was there so much of a gap between us?
恐れで私は倒せぬよ。
The Totem Emperor calmly placed his hand upon the blade aimed at his neck before leveling his gaze with mine. His eyes were brimming with golden hellfire, their gaze devouring my very soul. I felt my will, my strength waver and fade.
哀れな。夫人の扱いを知らぬ男に抱かれては、K のビビしさもくすんでしまおう、歌姫よ。歓喜、哀絶、そして紅葉。花を飾るのはそれだけでよい。恐怖や憤怒などというものは、所詮泥名をのたうつヒップの業に他ならん。カールよ。ゆえに、私なりの愛し方を享受するが、よかろうな。
Just then, something happened that made me want to close my eyes and plug my ears.
私
Oh!
は全てを愛している。それが何者であれ、差別はなく平等に。
Oh no! The sound of it gnawed at my eardrums, its sight boring out my eyes. I was left completely powerless and outmatched. This abomination of a man was completely out of my league.
私の愛とは、すなわち破壊だ。すべて壊す。天国も地獄も神も悪魔も、神羅万象、三千大千世界のことごとくを。ああ、壊したことがないものを見つけるまでな。K はどうだ？私に抱かれたことがあったかね？知りたいな。
A series of deep cracks ran along the guillotine with a sharp creak. Mary was being shattered. I let out a futile, hollow scream. Oh! Welp!
K も怒りの火の奏者なら、楽器の泣かせ方は心得ることだ。ザラトゥストラ。
Oh boy.
ない。すぐに返してやろう。もっとも、別の男に抱かれた女を再度受け入れる度量があればの話だがな。
Damn. As he shattered my honor nerve with his bare hands and sent me shrinking and sinking into the darkness of the abyss, I saw Reinhard carrying a befuddled Mary in his arms. Was I going to die in a place like this?
レイ、てめえら、こいつに言ったい。
That was Shiro's voice. Did he come to rescue me? What a dumbass. He should have been running for his life. He was mad, genuinely pissed, which was a rare sight in itself, but I couldn't for the life of me open my eyes. All I could do was sink deeper and deeper, with no end in sight. Hey!